A good day to you, fellow constant readers. It is Friday, November the 8th of 2024, and this is going to be the audio blog about Stephen King's Wolves of the Calla, which I just finished earlier this week. But as you know, there was a lot going on privately and in world politics, of course, so I was a bit distracted. So Wolves of the Calla was first published in 2003. It is the fifth book in Stephen King's Dark Tower series, and it picks right up after Wizard and Glass, or, depending on your reading order, A Wind Through the Keyhole. We again meet Roland's Ka-Tet, consisting of Eddie Dean, Susanna, and Jake Chambers of New York, Oi the Billy Bumbler, and the gunslinger himself, Roland Deschain. After surviving the Stark Blast and the Wizard, they meet up in Calla Bryn Sturgis. Calla Bryn Sturgis is another desert area on the path of the beam. Here they get welcomed by Andy the robot and skeptical townsfolk. At first they actually sneak up on the Ka-Tet, but having a form of shining they already noticed before and played it out to their advantage. Turns out the town is in bad trouble, because once in a generation the wolves from Thunderclap come, take away one kid from each family with a set of twins. These return later back, and they are ruined, which means ruined. They are broken, especially in the head. They later grow to enormous size, but die very young under horrible pain. We later learn that all of this is connected to the rose, which is growing in the vacant lot of New York City of 1977, to where the Ka-Tet travels by Black 13. Like the Pink Wizard's rainbow, Black 13 is another of the Palantirs, the magical glass balls in Stephen King's world. And Black 13 is prime among these incredibly powerful artifacts. Black 13 is introduced to the Ka-Tet by Father Don Callahan, whom you might remember as a constant reader, as the main protagonist of Stephen King's Salem's Lot, his second novel. Through a dreamlike state called Todash, Black 13 transports the Ka-Tet to the New York of 1977, where they re-meet with Calvin Tower, the book owner of the Manhattan Restaurant of the Mind. He is threatened by an earlier version of the same mafiosi mob boss gangsters who killed Eddie Dean's brother Henry in the Drawing of the Three. As Eddie puts it, he has no problem killing these guys twice. They threaten Calvin Tower, who is also the owner of the vacant lot, to sell this one to the Sombra Corporation. As we find out later, it's all connected to the bad guys from Roland's level of the tower. Honestly, I fell in love with this book because of this plot line, the Ka-Tet returning to New York. On my second journey to the tower, I must say that the Drawing of the Three is my favorite of the Dark Tower novels, and the story returning in novel 5 back to New York just gave me a lot of joy. But also the Calla Bryn Sturgis storyline is very cool, and it is different from the storyline in Wizards and Glass, despite what many people say, which is probably in huge parts because of the story of Don Callahan. The story of Don Callahan is interesting in that way that we meet him again after defeating the vampires in Salem's Lot. And he's a broken man. He's an alcoholic and rarely gets his act together. and we follow him and find out that he's being hunted by vampires. He flees through New York, among other cities of the US of the past, and eventually he ends up in Calabrian Sturgis, where he, Callahan, starts a new life and becomes the old guy. They also call him Father. And he reluctantly accepts the role, even starts a church and community there. There's treachery in this book. There's a robot character, Andy, who you will feel very familiar with if you've recently watched the Fallout show or played the games. Even though in the book they say they have resemblance to, these robots have resemblance to Doctor Doom from the Marvel comics. The showdown with the wolves is short, brutal, and sweet, bittersweet. Here we discover a big development in respect to Susanna. You remember what she had to do? How they drew Jake into Roland's world? It had its consequences. And it is highly terrifying. And it is with Susanna that this book ends. I'm very excited for the next book, The Song of Susanna. I remember having it some of the coolest scenes overall in this series, so I'm very excited to go forward. So I listened to the audiobook in English, narrated by George Giddel, and he's the one who also narrated the very first Dark Tower novel, The Gunslinger, and the other books then were narrated by Frank Muller, who, as King tells in the epilogue of this book, had a terrible motorcycle accident, couldn't continue with the series. But George Giddel, he really has evolved, he really has. It was very good listening to his characters. He, I think he learned a lot from Frank, that's clear. Alright, so that's how it's going on. Just very briefly, I'm still reading Jack Reacher, Without Fail, by Lee Child. I think it's the 6th Jack Reacher novel. It's also very cool. It's about the assassination of the US Vice President-elect. And, well, oh my God, don't even get me started on American politics. But this book, I think I have more or less 100 pages left. And then I want to delve deeply into science fiction again. It's about time. I was thinking about doing a poll on YouTube again. I have a couple of nice ones sitting here on the shelves. Ursula K. Le Guin, The Left Hand of Darkness and The Dispossessed. Greg Bear, The Forge of God. And the second book, which is Anvil of Stars or something. Kazuo Ishiguro, Clara and the Sun. Wow, must be great. Olaf Stapledon, John Scalzi, or maybe even more classic sci-fi. I have several other books here, so we'll see. Anyway, if you made it to the end, thanks a lot, and feel free to leave a thumbs up or subscribe. Have a great day, and stay strong. Long days and pleasant nights.